I never saw it as a roadblock. I never saw myself as different, even though I didn't see the representation on TV. So everyone in my family are either doctors or like techies. Okay, so like that's the vibe. I don't fit that profile at all. I think Virgin Radio, what I love about Virgin and why I've been there now for 15 years is that we reflect the society that we live in. We are from all edges of the world. We all speak different languages, and we're happy to celebrate all cultures because that's the way the world should be. You know, it's so interesting because I work on the radio. What's funny is the comment that I get a lot, and I didn't really realize the severity of this comment. Yeah, the comment that I get a lot is like, "Oh, you're the girl on the radio? But you sound so American. I would have never guessed."
Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of What's Brown Got to Do With It. Now I'm not going to lie, but I'm a bit nervous about this one in fear of being judged on my podcasting skills. So I would like to introduce my next guest, Priti Malik. Priti describes herself as a New York City girl with Indian roots. Priti, as most of you will more commonly know her as the co-host on the Kris Fade Show at Virgin Radio Dubai. Hi Priti, welcome. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Don't judge me, please.
No, not at all. We're just two women having a chat. That's all that this is.
We are indeed. I'm so
Yep,
excited about this one
yep.
because I listen to you every morning on the way to
Thank you.
school,
Thank
me and
you.
my son, and we just find you so entertaining. And what I absolutely love, and I have to like say this, is how so refreshing that you have brought in this whole desi element on the Chris Fade Show, like on Virgin Radio. So it's
Thanks.
so nice that, especially living in this region, like there's such a huge diaspora when it
Yep,
comes to South Asians. And
yeah,
so anybody can kind of tune in and relate to the content. So
yeah,
that leads me to begin with, like,
yeah.
can you just share your journey into the world of media and radio and
Sure.
some of the key highlights of the moments that led you to become like a radio presenter?
Yeah, sure. So I started doing this when I was about 16, 17 years old. I've been in the
Okay.
industry. I started in high school. The light bulb moment for me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college. I thought I'd do law just because I like to talk. So I was like, oh, law. What a silly thing. And then one day I went to MTV Studios because I'm from New York City, easily accessible. We were in Times Square watching this live show on MTV called Total Request Live (TRL), and this
Mm,
woman, one of the VJs, came down, Hillary Burton, and she did like a live thing. You know, there were like
mm.
audience and stuff. We get used to wave. There were celebrities and all that stuff, so we were like waving. And she did a live link, and as I watched her, I was like, I don't know, something went off in my head, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to do what she's doing. So from then on, like, I decided that I would major in broadcast journalism in college, and that's exactly what I did. I
Oh,
joined a
wow.
radio station while I was in college. I interned at TV stations at ABC when I was in college,
Mm.
and I always was continually part of the process. Once I graduated, I was working for a Punjabi language TV show in New York,
Oh, wow.
and then I got the job and I moved here. So I've always been involved in it, and it's really interesting to me because I've always been a performer. I've been dancing since I was 3, so I've always been on a
Mm.
stage. But I, for some reason, never connected making this a career until that moment. So yeah,
Mm.
now I'm here.
Interesting. And how easy or difficult do you think that was for you? A, being a woman,
Yeah,
B, being a South Asian
yeah.
woman.
I think you know what. I don't know if this answer will be satisfactory, but I never thought about those things. And
Hmm.
call it naivety at the moment because I was young. I was 16, 17, you know, and I had a goal in my mind.
Hmm.
I never saw it as a roadblock. I never saw myself as different, even though I didn't see the representation on TV
Hmm.
or hear it on the radio. I never saw that as a hindrance. Like it was never a thought in my mind that,
Hmm.
oh, I'm South Asian. I may not be welcome into certain circles. I'm a woman. I may not be welcome in certain circles. And I think I want to attribute that to my teachers, the people around me, because I never, ever once for a moment felt as though those two things would be a hindrance. And I guess that's a good thing because it kept me driven and it kept me driving towards a goal. I did have one person when I was leaving my ABC internship, and maybe it makes sense now, I don't know. But as I was saying my final goodbyes and I was leaving my internship, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm graduating in like 6 months or whatever. And they were like, oh, what do you want to do after graduation? And I was like, oh, well, I want to be on TV or radio. And I remember they looked at me and they went, good luck with that. And I was like, well, I know I'm going to be honest. I don't know what that means. Again, very naive, very like driven towards a goal. So I never really felt that hindrance. But I think once I joined the workforce and I've kind of seen how it could work in a corporate culture. I wouldn't really say my company, I'm blessed to be worked with where I am and what I do. But I can understand how those two things can be such a hindrance. I think I was just so naive that even if it was a hindrance in my career, I didn't even think about it and I didn't even recognize it, and I just kept moving forward.
So just circling back to one thing you said that you did notice, that there weren't many people that looked like you in that industry to begin with. Why do you think? Because I don't think it's all to do with color. I do feel that some things were about, the cultural background or the support from the family and things like that. But
for sure,
why do you think that happens?
You know what? I wish I knew, because I think when it comes to the United States, we're such a large country and we're so different going from one city to the next.
Yeah.
So I was blessed to be growing up in New York City, which is literally like the world at your doorstep. I grew up in Queens, and they say we speak the most languages in Queens in the world because we have everyone from every corner of the world.
Cool.
When I went to school, most of the kids that I went to school with were first generation Americans. Their parents were immigrants, or, 2 generations back, their parents were immigrants. So that whole thing of being from a different culture, again, was not a part of the conversation. It was just a part of our everyday life. As far as not seeing anyone on TV that looked like me, I don't know why that didn't happen. But now as I get older and we are a little bit smarter and I'm not as naive, I can understand that there are cultural differences and as to what is perceived and what is seen. So I think maybe that was definitely maybe a part of it. And I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to how many South Asian women in particular chose this as a profession. I'm sure there were plenty of women, Indian American women who wanted to do this as a profession, but felt like because of their families, they couldn't. Plenty, I'm sure. But I think as the years have gone on, it's become more quote unquote acceptable to do something like this. So, and now you do see it. Now you do see so many of us in the media. So I think maybe that probably had something to play with it as well.
Well, I think there's a lot more visibility now in terms of social media has also played such a huge part. But, for you, when you were doing it, what was the support network like for you, like within your own vicinity?
I'm my parents are amazing and I love them, and my sister as well. So everyone in my family are either doctors or like techies. Okay. So like that's the vibe. I don't fit that profile at all. But I think, my dad and my mom, they instilled something in my sister and I, which was, you put in the hard work for what you want to do. I remember when I was studying for exams and things like that, I'd be like cramming and it'd be like 11:30 at night. I got to wake up early to go to school. My dad would be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I got a test tomorrow. I got to study. And he goes, well, it's 11:30 at night. There's no point in studying now. You did what you could. It is what it is. You go in and give the test tomorrow. If you don't do that well, maybe that's a lesson learned that you need to start studying a little bit earlier or change something up. It's fine. Like there was never a pressure to achieve a certain number, a certain goal. So when it came to what I want to do, they're thinking I'm going to do law. And then I was like, no, I kind of want to do broadcast. I think my parents at first, the only worry that they had was like, can she have a career doing this? Will she be able to earn money? Will she be able to have a life doing this? Because, you know, they don't know anything about this. So they said to me, listen, we have no idea about this world. We can't help you. Do you think you can make a career out of it? Again, naive. Yeah, of course. Everyone's going to want to hire me, 16-year-old, right? And they said, as long as you are happy doing it and you think you can make this a career, that's great. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to go into work, not us. So you have to choose something that you feel you will be able to do. And I kind of took that under my wing and you know, never looked back.
Look, I'm here for your 16-year-old confidence, because
Right.
there's a lot to be said at that. I mean, in my own experience, my dad really wanted me to be a lawyer. My whole family did, and I didn't do law. And then my younger sister, who was then thinking about what she wanted to do, and she said, I want to do journalism. She actually wanted to be a journalist. And my dad said, no, you have to be a lawyer. And he said, you can do whatever you want afterwards, but you have to do law. And my sister, complete opposite to me, very obedient. She said, okay, Dad, I'll do law. And she did it. And, you know, to be fair, she really enjoyed it. Like, and she was really good at it. But it was just that mindset, like, no, like, what is this? Because in those times, it was just, if it's not, and I think, you know, circling back to when we were talking about when you don't see that representation visually, so when you're not seeing it on TV and you're not hearing it on mainstream radio, then that fear as a parent to be like, well, if you do this, then what are you going to do with this? Because there's nobody else that's kind of doing this. So it's not easy. Whereas there are so many South Asian lawyers and doctors and engineers so on. It's always safe. But when we spoke about before, and I mentioned that, you know, you do bring this kind of uniqueness to Virgin Radio. So as a South Asian in the media industry, from like, in your perspective, what cultural insights do you bring to, you know, your work? And how do you think they've contributed to your success?
So I think what's really amazing, about living in Dubai is, as you said, there are so many South Asians. You know, and it reminds me of growing up back home, because I think what I've now realized, what I maybe have done or impacted, is not being afraid to be both. And what I mean by that is that oftentimes people like you and I, who have grown up outside of India, who were born and raised outside of India, or Pakistan or Bangladesh, we're often told, are you American or are you Indian? Which one are you? Now, again, I was lucky enough to grow up in New York City, where those worlds always kind of combine. Like, I'd be at a Garba night, but then the next day I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm celebrating the 4th of July. Like, I'm doing it all. We're doing an India Day parade in the middle of Manhattan, but we're also celebrating 4th of July. You know what I mean? Or Labor Day or whatever it is. So that's always been there. And I think what maybe I have, I'm not saying I'm resting it all on my shoulders. There are plenty of people around me who've done this before me, but I think maybe I've made people more comfortable in owning both, because I own both. I don't think you have to be one or the other. You don't have to be just American or just Indian or just British and just Pakistani. You just one, just or the other. We are a combination of both of our cultures, you know? I'm just as American as I am Indian. I love both my sides of my world. And I think Virgin Radio, what I love about Virgin and why I've been there now for 15 years, is that we reflect the society that we live in. We are from all edges of the world. We all speak different languages, and we're happy to celebrate all cultures, because that's the way the world should be. You know, we don't all live in little boxes. We all mingle and we all speak to each other. And I think at Virgin Radio, I hope we do a really good job. I know we always try to be inclusive. We are for everyone. You know, we celebrate everything and everyone. And I think we all are a good example of that. And I hope that's what comes across when you're listening to me on the radio as well.
Actually, it does, because now that you've said it, I'm think reflecting on that, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, when I'm listening, I relate to you. I relate to you as a South Asian, growing up, being born and raised in a Western country. I relate to Rossi's like
Yeah.
Britishness. I,
Yep.
relate to Chris's like Dubai-ness. That it's all there. It's a great mix. And it's actually refreshing to have someone or see someone use the platform that they've been given for that, because a lot of the times, when we talk about, going back to your point of, um, you can be American and they see you are at the same time. And I feel exactly the same. I mean, as a British South Asian, one doesn't, I'm not one without the other. Somebody asked me this recently: what do you identify more with? Are you more British or are you more South Asian? And for me, it's both. I have the best of both worlds. However, being in this region, I feel that I'm made to question my identity a lot more. And so sometimes, I'm not given that space to be a British South Asian. I have to be either British or I have to be South Asian. And that causes kind of a conflict in my own mind, as to, where am I where am I really from? So bringing it back to, the platform that you're using, and some of those challenges, do you have, I know you said like growing up you were a bit naive on those things, but as you became more aware, were there like specific challenges or obstacles that, you feel that you faced on your career trajectory? Like, how did you deal with that?
It's so interesting because I work on the radio. What's funny is the comment that I get a lot, and I didn't really realize the severity of this comment. Yeah,
Mm.
the comment that I get a lot is like, "Oh, you're the girl on the radio, but you sound so American.
Oh my God.
I would have never guessed." And I didn't, that can, now I realize it's a bit offensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I understand what they're trying to say because of my accent, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm American. But when you look at me, the mind doesn't understand what's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know how it is, if you're British, but I'm sure you must feel the same way. And it's like, no, but I am American or I am
Yeah.
British. I'm just
Yeah.
proud of my roots. So that's
Yeah.
a comment that I do get a lot. But what I do, as far as challenges go, to be honest, I don't really, I don't, I just, I guess I'm blessed to be in the work environment that I am, because I think I recognized, I always knew about the South Asian diaspora that already existed here, but I think a lot of
Mm.
my other colleagues who came in from different places around the world, who maybe
Mm.
didn't have such a large South Asian presence in the cities
Mm.
that they're from, they came here and at first they didn't realize the connection, I think. And it's
Yeah.
not in some sort of a negative or out of a place of malice. It was just not something that they're used to on
Yeah.
a top
Yeah.
40 English station, you know,
Yeah.
to have that influence, because in other places around the world, that's not a normal thing where you can
Yeah.
throw in Desi influences. The max that we went was Beware the Boys Punjabi MC, right?
Yeah.
With
Oh
Jay-Z.
my
That's
God,
the
if I
max.
hear that, you know, does this
It's
happen to
weird.
you? Like when you're
Yes.
out and as soon as that comes on, everybody like just
Starts
looks at
you.
you and they're like, and then they just expect you to just bust out in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
like this whole dance movement. And you're like, oh my God, this is just not it.
Like, there are other songs, guys. We've progressed. There's Diljit, there's AP Dillo.
Yeah.
Like, we've progressed. I mean, Punjabi MC is a legend. But I think they didn't realize how well all of those things can kind of mix together. And it was
Mm.
a learning curve for them because they realized, wow, the South Asian presence is really strong here. And they realized that they can kind of mix in everything. And I think you hear that it's reflected on the radio, and not just South Asians. I'm talking about all of the cultures. The other day we were playing a song from the Philippines that was really famous in like the
Yeah.
70s, and everyone was like, oh my God, I can't believe you played this song. But
Mm.
that's what it's about. And I think that's why we're in this unique position. It's such a learning curve for people who did not grow up with people from either the South Asian diaspora or other places around the world. So they're
Oh.
introduced to this new flavor. And I love that over the years, I've pushed for it from my end to like push for that kind of content, to be able to play music that kind of blurs the line a little bit more, different languages and things like that. And I think Virgin Radio has been really receptive of it, and you hear the reflection on the radio.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think some of this also has to do with just the highlighting or having access to South Asians in mainstream musics. Because when we are talking about, mainstream radio, like the top 40, how much of that is South Asian influence? This is why, everyone looks at you when Punjabi MC plays, because it's the only kind of music that they know that comes from a South Asian background. And so, what do you think that? I mean, I feel like when I was thinking about this, like Jay Sean is the only one that came to mind who's kind of made it half there. And even then, like, it's only some of his old stuff. Why do you think, or what is the barrier, the challenges there for South Asian musicians to get that visibility?
It's interesting, and Tesher,
Mm,
um, he's done really well
yeah,
with Jalebi Baby, that went worldwide.
yeah.
And he was on our show, and he made the same comment, and he goes, Latin music is massive
Mm,
on mainstream English radio. Why can't we have Hindi or South
mm,
Asian influences also make it to the top 40? And I think Jalebi Baby was a testament to that.
yeah.
I don't know why it has not broken yet. I think maybe because Latin music has always seemed to be infused within English music for years
Mm,
and years and years. And maybe South Asian music doing that same infusion. Although Jay Sean, Raghav, Jagidi, they
mm,
all did this Rishi Rich, nearly 20 years ago now.
yeah.
It's still new. It's still a new concept. And I think
Mm,
artists like Jay, artists like Kesher, they're slowly starting to break down the barrier. You look at Priyanka Chopra. She is a prime
mm,
example of
yeah,
causing
true.
mass confusion, of trying to put people in a box. Now, when
Yeah,
Priyanka Chopra comes, you can't call her a Bollywood actress. She's
yeah,
just a global superstar. She's a global actress.
yeah,
What box do you
yeah.
fit her in? Just because she's Indian, do you have to put her in the Bollywood box? Well, that's
Mm,
not fair, right? Um,
yeah.
when you look at a Penelope Cruz, you're not only putting her in a Latina box, she's just
Mm,
an actress, a global actress. So I think it's slowly starting to break down, but you have to remember our sort of entry into that music world is only about Jay Sean's Down was what, 15
mm.
years ago, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
you
Still
know?
singing it. Yeah.
We're still singing it, but that's a very short amount of time,
Yeah.
to have that
Yeah.
crossover. So I think we just got to keep going at it. Like the momentum is there, and I think Priyanka has a lot to do with it. What
Oh
she's
yeah.
done for that crossover. But we just got to keep chipping away. Shows like Never Have I Ever that Mindy Kaling created, things
Yeah.
like that are creating for a mass audience that includes the South Asian culture. Miss Marvel on Disney Plus
Oh my
is an
God. Yeah.
amazing example of
Yeah.
how seamlessly that Pakistani culture was weaved into the story without
Yeah.
it being an obvious thing. Yes, it was just a daily part of the show, and it was beautifully scripted. So as
Yeah.
long as we keep chipping away at that and keep
Yeah.
moving ahead with that, it will happen. I think
Yeah.
this generation, our generation, is really eager to see like the explosion because
Yeah.
we're
And
like, come
and
on,
yeah, because it feels like it's been a long time coming, right? But
yeah,
it is so great to actually see that South Asia. I mean, never have I ever. I think it's
yeah,
just broken like that's reality. That is a prime example of the reality of a South Asian growing in, being raised and born in a Western world, and the battle of fighting,
yeah.
not fighting, but the living the Western and the Eastern life. So that
Hmm.
was a great depiction. And now we've just got so many more South Asians that are representing um, mainstream media, whether it's films, people like Mindy, Lily Singh, even like, in acting,
Simone
you've got like,
Ashley, yeah, like
yeah,
there's so many,
exactly.
so many.
Riz
Yeah,
Ahmed. There's just like so much out there that now, when you look back at it, when you're like, there aren't many people that look like me up there. Now there's a lot more, but it feels like there's still a lot of work to be done to kind of still break away from those stereotypes. And music is probably one
yeah,
of them for sure.
yeah.
I mean,
And I think the stereotype, yeah, there's still a lot of tropes that are used in mainstream media, you know,
Hmm.
and I think we're working towards it. I mean, if you look at Never Have I Ever, the accents always get
Hmm.
me in that
Yeah.
show. But overall, like you said, the themes are something that a lot of people have related to. And
Hmm.
not just South Asians, but anyone who's grown up in an immigrant family
Yeah.
from wherever you are around the world has
Yeah.
probably related to those things. So we're getting there. And I think, as you said, you know, we say, oh, there's no one there, but there are so many people there. There will be more. And I think it also comes from the acceptance, quote unquote,
Hmm.
acceptance on the Western side of cinema out of South
Yeah.
Asia as well. You look at RRR, you look at,
Yeah.
you know, these movies, they're breaking boundaries. I feel like for a long time, Bollywood in general, I'm not even talking about the South Asian film, South Indian film industry, because that's a whole
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
conversation. But like the Bollywood conversation, a lot of times it was seen as this song and dance, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, but you know, people didn't realize there are actually some great work that's not song and dance that's coming out of
Yeah.
it, and I think
There's
that's being
amazing
started to,
movies now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's being started to take more seriously. So when, not that we need the approval of the West, and we never did,
Yeah.
but I think what we're asking for, as, correct me if I'm wrong, as South Asian diaspora kids, is we want to see what we're watching in our living rooms rented from the guy, the Indian uncle
Yeah.
down the street, on our regular mainstream channels.
Yeah. We want to
And
relate to it. Yeah.
yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of the TV producers and networks and studios, they are realizing that. The music studios are also realizing that. Timbaland for
Mm.
years has used Indian music,
Yeah.
South Asian music
Yeah.
influences, and he's always owned up to it. He's always said, "Hey, I'm influenced by South Asian music." So
Yeah.
it's, again, I think we're getting there. Yes, we'd like to speed up that train, but it's getting there. We got to keep doing this. You
Yeah.
know, we got to keep talking
It's
about it. We
yeah.
got to keep doing it.
It's just the battle of breaking the stereotype as well, you know,
Yeah.
when it comes to, well, it's not about all song and dance. And I took went with some friends recently, non-South Asian friends, to watch the movie that Rocky Irani
Rocky Irani. Yeah.
Ibrahim, yeah. And it was just so amazing watching their reaction. You know, there were tears, there was laughter, and then we literally had this 3 hour debrief afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was really informative, like, you know, we were talking about, okay, it's funny, the film was, you know, hilarious, but these actually stem from real life situations. And just, you know, talking about breaking those like stereotypes and how they perceive the Indian film industry, where they
Yeah.
did expect, well, I mean, it did have a song and a dance every, you
Yes.
know,
Yes. Yes.
bit of the way. But we were telling them, like, actually there's more to Indian film industry than just like songs and
Yep.
dances. And we were like
Yeah.
recommending movies and stuff, and they've been watching, one of my friends recently, she watched I made her watch Queen, and
Oh,
she was
what a
on the
movie.
floor. She was on the floor. She was like, this was brilliant. This was
Yeah.
so good. There wasn't like singing and dancing in there. It just felt so relatable. And for
Yeah.
me, it's like, if I can easily, I love my Korean dramas, I love watching my Spanish
Yeah.
dramas. If I can really easily do that, then why is there not much more visibility? Sorry, why is there not more visibility on, okay, I'm not going to say like, you know, Star Plus dramas, but there are other things that we do. You might
Yeah.
need a few years for those Star Plus dramas, but you know, we
No,
have
but it's
some.
happening. But I think that's the thing. It's starting to happen. You
Mm,
know, we're starting to see this kind of stuff happen. We're starting to see the crossover. We're starting to see people who are not South Asian interested in our art, in our
mm,
music, in our movies. It's happening. And I think a lot of credit goes to social media as well, because what pops
yeah.
up on your explore page may be something that you've never seen before, and it's
Mm,
happening. I think, you know, yeah, that's what I feel. I feel like we want to see the explosion, but I think we just got to follow the trail, because
mm,
all the others have also, like, Korean dramas have been around far before the discovery,
mm.
by I say discovery, quote unquote, by people who are
Yeah,
not Korean, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
That
yeah,
explosion only happened a few years ago. K dramas
yeah.
No one talked about K-dramas before.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a niche market for non-Koreans who were watching it, but now it's a part. So it's we just got to keep going. We got to, as South
Yeah.
Asians, if you're in the industry, keep producing the content, keep pushing, keep trying to get those
Yeah.
roles, keep pushing the music, and it will eventually happen. You look at Raja Kumari.
Yeah.
She's
Oh yeah.
brilliant. She's
Yeah.
brilliant. You know, you
Yeah.
look at Divine. He's another brilliant artist.
Yeah.
AP Dillon, what he's
Oh
done,
yeah.
the
On his
stadiums that
own.
he's,
Yeah.
yeah, stadiums that he sold out. You look at
Yeah.
Diljit. Diljit is
Yeah.
now at Coachella. Like that
Yeah.
is a
Mad.
huge,
Yeah.
huge moment. And I understand that we may not be everywhere like Latin artists, etc.
Yeah.
But we can't take these achievements like Diljit at Coachella lightly. That
Yeah.
is a massive, massive
That's
milestone
representation right there.
on
Yeah.
the highest level. Like
Mm.
those festival goers were like, we're gonna take a gamble on Diljit Dosanjh.
Yeah.
And credit to Sonali Singh. Shout out if she ever sees this. Sonali's amazing. The woman behind Diljit. You know, she was like, I'm gonna get you to Coachella. We're gonna do Coachella. Diljit is like, I
Love
want to do
it.
Coachella. Let's do Coachella. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that the Coachella organizers were like, all right, this guy's got a following, right? But
Yeah.
how is he going to do on this Coachella stage? Let's take the gamble. And what they got was
Yeah.
just, woo. And
Yeah.
also, I think a lot of these studios and stuff are waking up to the fact that, there's 1 billion people in India alone.
Yeah.
There is
It's a
mass,
market. Yeah.
it's a mass market. It's
Yeah.
WhatsApp's biggest user. It's Instagram's biggest user.
Yeah.
Like let's go down the list of all the. It's everyone's biggest user except for
Yeah.
TikTok because it's not there. If TikTok was still there, they would be the biggest user as
Yeah,
well.
we do. Yeah, they would. Yeah.
So they're finally starting to realize that, hey, we got to capture that South Asian market because we're losing views and clicks and concert tickets. Trevor Noah just was in Mumbai this weekend.
Yeah, that was mad. I saw that. Yeah.
So would that have
Everyone wants to
happened?
go there now. Yeah.
Yeah. Would that have happened maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago? Maybe not. So let's not take those milestones that we're achieving too lightly because those are massive achievements and it will happen. I think we're on the right track.
Tell me about an interview that you've done that really had a significant impact on you.
I think Priyanka.
Okay.
I think Priyanka, we've interviewed her a few times and
yeah.
I think the last time I interviewed her was right before COVID and it was just at that time where she just hit it, she just hit it. And she's always been really nice and humble and I feel like she gets a lot of hate in the press and I don't really and I think a lot of it comes from she made it in 2 different industries, and she's got that success and it might be just haters.
Do you also think I find this sometimes and it really makes me sad as much as I love my culture and identity, there are things about it that I feel like we bring each other down instead of uplifting and talking about each other's successes. Like we're so quick to be like, oh well, she's only made it because she got married to Nick Jonas and who does she think she is moving over to the States? It just really makes me wonder, why do we do that?
I wish I knew why, because I think a lot of it comes from maybe, that phrase in Hindi, log kya kahenge?
Yeah.
It's a generational thing, and I think we learn it from our past generations. Because I feel like, those memes about aunties being up in everyone's business and it was bad. It's true though. We've seen it with our own eyes, and it's happened within everyone's families. And I think we internalize it, but we don't realize we've learned it.
Yeah.
So I think a little part of that is there. And the other thing is, I feel like maybe it's hard for us to believe that it can happen without any sort of side deal. You know?
I think that a lot to do with jealousy as well.
Yes, 100%. Like if the roles were reversed, if any one of those people who made a comment like that were given the same opportunity that Priyanka was, you're telling me they wouldn't take it? That is that is the I can't say the words, but that is the lowest, like the biggest amount of what I've heard.
Exactly, yeah.
Everyone would take the opportunity. And I think it's sad. You're right. It is sad. But she's one of the, not the only one, but she's one of the ones who's made it really big on
Yeah.
both ends of the world. So
Yeah.
I think she is going to take a lot of flack for it, but
Yeah.
the people after her hopefully will not, you know?
Yeah. I think she's paved the way for a lot of conversations and a lot of transitions. And we have
Yeah.
seen lots, like you said, lots of people moving over after she's actually paved that way. But it always takes the first, right?
Yeah.
Like
And
there's
the
always
first
one that has to
will get all the
everything.
stones thrown at them. We'll get all
Yeah.
the comments. We'll have to answer all the questions. I mean, you look at Aishwarya Rai. She did it first. She
Yeah.
went. She tried Pink
Yeah.
Panther. She did a bunch. Malika Sherawat. She did it
Yeah.
as well. She was, and she's still on the Cannes circuit till this day. You
Yeah.
know, you had Anil Kapoor who was in Slumdog
Yeah, but it's
Millionaire.
different because he's a man, and I just felt
Exactly.
like it was a completely different
Yeah.
reception that he got. Where
Yep.
people, oh wow, it's amazing, and but yeah, that's I think that's a whole conversation.
On its own. Yeah.
For yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But what
Yeah.
advice would you
Yes.
give to young, not even young South Asians, I think anybody, any South Asian
Yes.
that's looking to pursue a career in media, on the radio, given your own experiences?
I think also, I did this in a time that was very different than now, and that's because
Mm,
social media really didn't exist. All we had was Facebook, and that was
yeah,
just brand new when I graduated. So
yeah,
it was a very different world. I think nowadays, because some people can become social media superstars overnight, they think it's super easy,
yeah,
and it's not. Radio is an art form that is completely different than just you're great at holding a conversation with friends. It's
mm,
a completely different art form. I think if you want to be in this industry, you have to be fully committed to it because it's gonna take you for a ride. I mean, there were
yeah,
times on my internships where I would be up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go set up for the radio station, work a full day, work another event at night, and come back at 9 o'clock at night,
mm,
and then start all over again the next day.
yeah,
And that's life. You will have to do internships where you don't get paid, and that is part of the job. That
mm,
is, you got to pay your dues. I did plenty of that stuff. That means when I was hired to do a promotions intern, for example, when I was 17 in high school, it was for a radio station
mm,
in New York City. Our main job of the day was to call all the winners from the radio station, confirm their details, and tell them how they can win their tickets or their prize or claim their prize.
right,
Literally,
yeah,
that was our job from morning till night. That's all we did. And
yeah,
clean the closet, organize all the prizes. That was our
yeah,
job. But I was eager to learn. So every day when I finished my my duty for the day and I had a break,
yeah,
I'd walk into my boss's office and I go, "Hey, what are you doing today? Is there anything that I can help you with?"
mm,
Every day I did that. Every single day. And because I asked those questions and I was like, what more
mm,
can I do? I was privileged enough to be given things that were not for interns. Go
yeah,
and help the breakfast club show with their whatever they're doing that day.
mm,
Hey, we have a concert with John Mayer tonight. Could you help us tonight? Interns
yeah,
aren't supposed to be there, but I was able to do it. I was able to learn. Hey, could you handle the VIP list for the concert tonight? Remember, they're going to be executives. There's going to be this, this, this. Please make sure that
yeah,
they're seated in their table. These are things you don't give to a 17-year-old
yeah,
girl in high school.
yeah,
But it was because I wanted to learn more. I was hungry for it. So my biggest thing is if you're going to be doing what you're doing this industry, please be
mm,
prepared to work hard, ask questions. No one's going to be like, oh, it looks like you've learned how to work, a microphone. Come on over and have this show. No one's going to do that. You got to work for it. You got to ask for it. You
if
got to work
only.
hard. So, imagine you walk into the room. Here's my resume. Yes, you may have your own TV show. Yeah, right. Like that's
Yeah,
never going to happen. So I think be prepared to work hard. Be prepared to do more than what you've been given.
yeah,
Pay your dues and just love what you do. And if you don't love this, don't do it because
it's not for you. Yeah,
it's going to spit you out. You cannot do this. It's exhausting. It's long hours. It's weird hours. You won't be able to survive if you don't
yeah,
love it.
for sure. Okay, so just before we end,
Yeah.
there's a question that I like to ask all my guests, and that is, what's brown got to do with it for you? So what does it mean to be brown to you?
To me, it's a part of me. It's a part of my DNA. It's who I am. I'm so grateful that, my parents instilled our culture within us, our language within us when from a young
Mm,
age. I'm so grateful that I learned about my holidays and, the clothes and the movies. Like I grew up
mm,
on Hindi movies, and
mm.
I'm grateful for that. And I'm so proud of our culture. It's a beautiful culture. Yes, there are complexities to it and there's things that have evolved over the years. But at the base of it, it's a beautiful, beautiful culture. And I'm so proud to wear that on my skin every single day.
Thank you, Priti. I love that. Thank you so much for being here today. It was such a inspiring conversation.
Thank
And I
you.
think, I think the gist of what we've spoken about is just amazing to see people like yourself, representing, making me proud to be like, oh, there's someone that
Oh,
looks like me that I listen to every morning, that my child listens to every morning, and it's normal. And we're normalizing this kind of presence now. I love that. But thank
thank you
you
so
and
much.
good luck for
Thank
everything. And
you.
hopefully we will speak to you soon.
Hopefully, we'll meet in
Bye.
person.
For
Bye.
sure. Take care.
Bye.